The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council was filled with voices from every corner of the known stars. Representatives of hundreds of worlds gathered to hear the announcement of the Elendari Empire. Their empire was one of the oldest and most powerful, known for its wisdom, beauty, and long traditions. Yet no one expected the strange words that came from Princess Serenia, the heir to the Elendari throne. She stood tall and graceful at the center of the hall, her silver gown shining in the light of the floating crystals above. Her eyes, bright like twin moons, moved slowly across the crowd before she spoke. Her voice was calm but carried strength that made every world listen. She said she would only form her sacred diplomatic bond with a human partner. The words shocked everyone present. The humans were the youngest members of the interstellar community. They had only left their home world a century ago. Many still thought of them as unprepared, too simple, and too bold for the delicate politics of the galaxy. Why would the princess of the Elendari Empire choose them above all others? The question echoed in the chamber and soon across the stars. The other ambassadors whispered with disbelief. The Zarin, with their long history of diplomacy, shook their heads. The tall and proud Thrynn let out low growls of insult. Even the gentle scholars of the Viuri looked confused. A small group of humans stood at the side of the hall, and their faces showed both pride and nervousness. They had not expected such attention. Among them was Captain Elias Carter. Once a soldier, he now served as a diplomat for Earth. He was not the tallest or the strongest human in the group, but his steady eyes and calm manner often gave him a quiet authority. When he heard the princess speak, he felt something stir in his chest. He could not explain why, but he felt as if her words were directed at him alone. After the announcement, chaos followed. Voices rose in protest, questions filled the air, and the council demanded reasons. Yet Princess Serenia gave none. She stood with the same calm face and repeated only one thing. She would not bond with anyone except a human partner. She did not say which human, and she did not explain why. The council had no choice but to respect her words. The Elendari Empire was too important to offend. Still, confusion spread like fire. Why humans? Why now? No one could answer. News traveled fast. Across the galaxy, people laughed, argued, and speculated. Some said the princess had gone mad. Others thought she had seen something in the humans that the rest of the galaxy could not see. On Earth, excitement filled the air. For the first time, humanity stood at the center of interstellar affairs. Elias returned to his quarters that night with a heavy mind. He looked out through the window at the endless stars. His reflection on the glass looked back at him, calm but unsure. He remembered battles he had fought and treaties he had signed, but none of them felt as strange as this. Why would the princess choose his people? Why would she risk angering so many other worlds for this? The next morning, an official message came from the Elendari court. Humans who wished to be considered must take part in a series of trials. These trials would test not only strength but also intelligence, courage, and empathy. Elias read the message carefully. He knew what it meant. The galaxy would be watching, and so would the princess. Elias made his decision quickly. He would join the trials. He did not know what awaited him, nor did he understand why he felt so strongly about it. Yet deep inside, something told him that his path and the princess's path were tied together. He had faced battles before, but this time it was not only about survival. It was about proving that humanity could stand equal with the oldest and greatest of the stars. Far away, in her private chamber, Princess Serenia looked out at the same stars. She too felt the weight of her choice. She knew the council was angry, and she knew many worlds doubted her. Still, she held her silence. She had reasons, but they were not ready to be spoken. All she whispered to herself was a single thought. The time of humanity had come, and with it the hope her people had long awaited. The day of the trials began with rising suns over the Elendari capital world. The sky was painted in shades of gold and blue, and the towers of crystal reflected the light like shining blades. Crowds from every corner of the galaxy gathered to watch. Some came with curiosity, others with doubt, and many with open mockery of the young human race. At the center of the city stood the Hall of Challenges, an ancient arena where tests of skill, mind, and heart had been carried out for centuries. Inside, banners of many worlds were displayed, but the largest banner was the silver crest of the Elendari. Beneath it, Princess Serenya sat on her high seat, calm and silent. Her expression gave away nothing, yet her eyes followed every movement with sharp interest. The human candidates were brought forward. There were 7 of them, each from different backgrounds. Some were soldiers, some were scientists, and others were explorers. Captain Elias Carter walked among them with steady steps. His uniform was plain, but his manner carried a quiet strength. He looked at the other competitors and gave them a small nod. He did not see them as rivals but as fellow humans standing in the light of the galaxy. The first trial tested intelligence. Each candidate faced puzzles created by Elendari scholars, puzzles that twisted in ways most species found confusing. Images shifted in the air, patterns broke apart, and numbers danced like living shapes. One by one, the candidates worked through them. Some struggled, others adapted. When it was Elias's turn, he did not rush. He studied the puzzle carefully, then used simple logic instead of complex tricks. His solution was not the fastest, but it was clean and steady. The judges whispered to one another, surprised by his clear thinking. Serenya's eyes glowed faintly as she watched him. The second trial tested endurance. The humans were placed in a chamber of shifting gravity. The floor tilted, the air grew heavy, and light storms danced around them. Many species would have faltered, but the humans pushed on. Elias moved with care, helping a younger candidate who nearly fell when the ground turned upside down. Though the challenge was harsh, his focus was not only on his own survival but on the well-being of others. This small act did not go unnoticed. The third trial tested empathy. A group of Elendari actors entered the chamber, playing roles of strangers in distress. They pretended to be weak, lost, or fearful. Some candidates hesitated, unsure if helping them would be a trap. Elias stepped forward without question. He calmed the frightened child, guided the lost traveler, and spoke kindly to the one who wept. His words were simple, but his sincerity carried weight. The judges marked their notes, and Serenya leaned forward slightly in her seat. As the trials continued, whispers spread among the alien spectators. Some laughed at the humans for their clumsy ways. Others began to notice something different. The humans did not always win with speed or strength, but they showed creativity and compassion. They made mistakes, yet they did not give up. Their persistence drew attention in a way no one expected. By the end of the day, only 3 humans remained strong in the competition. Elias stood among them, his face calm though his body was tired. Sweat marked his forehead, but his eyes were steady. The other candidates looked at him with respect, for he had earned it through action, not pride. That evening, as the candidates rested, Elias found a quiet place in the gardens of the palace. The air was filled with the soft glow of floating lights, and water flowed gently in crystal streams. He thought about the trials and about the princess. Why did she want a human partner? What secret was she hiding? He could not answer, but he knew there was more to her choice than simple tradition. From a balcony above, Serenya watched him in silence. Her attendants asked if she wished to explain her reasons to the council, but she shook her head. She had seen enough for now. Elias's actions had confirmed part of what she believed. Humans were different, and their difference mattered. Still, the greatest test was yet to come, and she knew the days ahead would shape the fate of both her people and his. The trials had only just begun, but already the galaxy was watching more closely than ever before. The Elendari capital glowed under the light of 3 moons. Towers of crystal reflected silver beams across the wide plazas, and the air carried a soft hum from floating lanterns that never burned out. It was a world built with grace, and many who visited felt small in its presence. Yet for Captain Elias Carter, the beauty of the city only deepened his questions. He had passed through the trials of the day, his body tired but his spirit unbroken. Now he walked alone through the quiet gardens, searching for calm. The stars above shone brighter here than anywhere he had seen, as if the universe itself leaned closer to listen. His thoughts turned again and again to Princess Serenya. Why had she chosen a human? Why had she risked the anger of so many powerful species? He could not push these questions aside. That night, as he followed a path lined with glowing trees, he found her waiting. Princess Serenya stood near a pool of clear water, her silver gown shining like liquid moonlight. She did not look surprised to see him. Instead, she raised her head gently, as though she had known he would come. "You walk with heavy thoughts, Captain Carter," she said. Her voice was soft, but in the quiet night it carried clearly. Elias bowed slightly out of respect. "I do, Princess. Forgive me, but I cannot stop wondering why you made your demand. You know the Council is restless. The galaxy is watching. Yet you give no reason. Why humans? Why now?" For a moment she was silent. Her eyes turned toward the stars, and their reflection shimmered in the pool. When she finally spoke, her words carried both weight and mystery. "My people live long lives," she said. "We have knowledge that reaches back beyond memory. But with such age comes weariness. The Elendari have grown steady, but also rigid. We do not change easily. Sometimes I fear we cannot change at all. Humanity, however, is different. Your people are young, yet you adapt. You rise after every fall. You find paths when none are seen. That is why I called for a human." Elias listened carefully, his heart beating faster. Her words felt honest, yet he sensed there was more. "That cannot be the only reason," he said. "To risk the Empire's traditions, to face anger from so many worlds, you must see something greater than simple adaptability. What is it that you are not telling us?" Her gaze lowered to the water, and for the first time her calm mask seemed to tremble. "There are things I should not reveal," she whispered. "Prophecies spoken long ago, warnings carved in crystal, visions that my people dismiss as old tales. But I believe them. They speak of a time when darkness will rise across the stars. When it comes, the Elendari alone cannot stand. We will need a partner, not of our kind, but of a kind that carries unbreakable hope. Every sign points to humanity." Elias felt the air grow heavier around them, though the night remained still. He wanted to press her for more, yet he also saw the strain in her face. She had revealed something sacred, something she had likely carried since childhood. He chose his words with care. "Hope may be our gift," he said, "but hope is not enough if no one believes in it. Why share this with me? Why not tell the council and make them understand? Serenya turned her eyes back to him. Because the council would not listen. They fear change. They respect power and tradition, not vision. But you listened. Even now, you do not laugh at my words. That is why I chose humanity. That is why I chose you. The last words struck him deeply. He looked at her, seeing not only a princess but a leader burdened by secrets, a leader searching for trust. The stars above seemed to shine brighter in that moment, as though they too wanted him to understand. Elias bowed again, not out of formality but out of genuine respect. Then I will carry your trust, princess. Whatever comes, I will face it with you. A quiet silence followed, broken only by the soft flow of water. Serenya gave a small nod, her calm returning. She knew she had revealed enough for now. There was still much he did not know, but the bond between them had begun to grow stronger. Far above, the stars glittered like distant eyes. Somewhere beyond their light, shadows moved unseen. The prophecy she spoke of was no tale. A storm was coming, and soon the entire galaxy would understand why the princess had demanded a human partner. The days after the secret meeting in the garden carried a strange calm, but beneath that calm, currents of unrest moved through the Elendari capital. The trials continued, yet whispers filled the halls of the council. Some alien factions spoke openly of their anger, while others plotted in silence. To them, the princess's choice of a human was not only strange but dangerous. If humanity rose to stand beside the Elendari, balance would shift across the galaxy. Many feared such a change, and some feared it enough to act against it. Captain Elias Carter noticed the tension as he walked through the shining corridors of the palace. Guards stood more alert, officials spoke in hushed voices, and the eyes of rival ambassadors followed him wherever he went. He knew distrust was natural, but the weight of it pressed heavier each day. The Elendari attendants treated him with respect, yet he sensed unease even among them. One evening, after a long day of trials, Elias sat in his quarters studying the star maps provided by the council. He traced routes between human colonies and Elendari worlds, wondering how strong an alliance could become if trust was built. His thoughts were interrupted by a faint sound at the door. A message capsule slid under it, glowing faintly. He picked it up, and a simple line appeared in shifting letters. "Be careful. They are watching." He frowned and tucked the capsule away. Who had sent it? A friend or perhaps someone trying to spread fear? The message troubled him, but he decided to remain steady. He had faced dangers before, and fear would only cloud his mind. The next day brought the trial of endurance, held in the great sphere of elements. Within its vast chamber, candidates faced storms of fire, ice, and rushing winds. Spectators filled the seats, eager to see if humans could endure what many seasoned warriors found overwhelming. Elias braced himself as the test began. Fire surged first, walls of flame racing across the chamber. The heat was intense, yet he pushed forward, shielding a fellow candidate who stumbled. Then came the cold, a wave of freezing air that numbed the skin and slowed the breath. Elias moved carefully, guiding his partner through the icy paths. Finally, the winds roared, strong enough to knock figures from their feet. He lowered his body, steadying himself, and reached out to pull another human to safety. When the trial ended, Elias was exhausted, his muscles aching, yet he stood tall. The crowd murmured with surprise. He had not been the fastest nor the strongest, but his resilience and his will to protect others shone clearly. Serenya, watching from her high seat, allowed herself the smallest smile, though most failed to notice. But not everyone was pleased. In the shadows of the council chamber, a group of alien envoys whispered their anger. They spoke of dishonor, of broken traditions, and of the risk of letting humans gain influence. Among them were those who had no interest in open debate. They believed action must be taken. That night, as Elias returned from the sphere of elements, he felt a strange presence following him through the corridors. The halls were quiet, but his soldier's instincts remained sharp. He turned sharply and caught a glimpse of a cloaked figure disappearing around a corner. He followed, but the figure slipped into the darkness. Soon after, an explosion shook the lower levels of the palace. Smoke rose through the crystal halls, and alarms filled the air. Chaos spread quickly, but Elias did not freeze. He ran toward the sound, helping guards guide civilians to safety. Flames crackled through one chamber, yet he pushed through the smoke to lift a wounded Elendari official out of danger. His actions were seen by many, and word spread that the human had risked himself without hesitation. When the fire was controlled and the danger passed, the council gathered in anger. Some accused rival factions, others demanded tighter security, but Serenya's voice cut through the noise. She pointed to Elias and said, even when danger struck, he chose to protect. This is the spirit I saw in humanity. Her words silenced the room, though not all agreed. In the quiet that followed, Elias caught her gaze. He saw trust there, but also warning. This was not the end of the unrest. It was only the beginning. Factions opposed to the alliance would not give up so easily, and the storm gathering around them would soon grow far stronger. As the night fell over the Elendari capital, the stars above seemed peaceful, but Elias knew peace was slipping away. Somewhere in the shadows, plans were already moving against him, against Serenya, and against the fragile bond forming between their worlds. The fire in the lower halls had been controlled, but its smoke lingered in the thoughts of everyone. The Elendari palace no longer felt untouchable. The council grew restless, their meetings filled with sharp voices and heavy suspicion. Some claimed the sabotage was an accident, while others whispered of conspiracies. Yet through it all, Princess Serenya remained calm. Her eyes carried the same silent strength, though inside she knew danger was closer than anyone wished to admit. Captain Elias Carter spent the following days moving carefully through the palace. Guards gave him wary looks, rival ambassadors glared openly, but the Elendari people who had seen him rescue the wounded official now spoke of him with respect. He was surprised by how quickly stories traveled, turning his simple act of courage into something larger. Still, he could not ignore the warning message he had received before the attack. Someone had tried to reach him. Someone knew more than they dared to say. One evening, Elias found himself wandering into the great archives of the Elendari. The chamber was vast, filled with crystal shelves that reached toward the ceiling, glowing faintly with stored knowledge. Holographic records floated in the air, shifting as scholars moved between them. He walked slowly, curious, until a soft voice addressed him. "You search for answers, human." Elias turned to see an Elendari elder standing nearby. Her robes shimmered with the color of deep twilight, and her eyes were older than stone. She introduced herself as High Keeper Elenya, guardian of the oldest records. She studied him for a long moment before leading him deeper into the archives. "There are things our council refuses to see," she said. "Visions carved into crystal long before our time. They speak of shadows rising and light fading. They speak of an ally who does not come from our stars. Do you understand what that means?" Elias felt his chest tighten. "You are talking about humanity," he said. Elenya nodded slowly. She guided him to a tall pillar of crystal. Inside its surface, shapes shimmered like frozen fire. When Elias touched it, the surface came alive. Images unfolded, fleets burning in darkness, stars swallowed by shadow, and then a small figure standing firm against the storm. The figure's shape was unclear, but its outline was human. "The prophecy is old," Alanya whispered. "Our people have always dismissed it as myth. But the princess believes, as do I. She demanded a human partner not for politics, but for survival. When the darkness comes, she believes you will be the light." Elias stepped back, his heart pounding. The weight of her words pressed hard. He had faced wars and losses, but never had he been told that his entire species carried such a role. Hope sounded noble, but hope alone could not fight shadows. Still, he could not deny the fire that sparked within him. Later that night, Elias confronted Serenya in her private chamber. She was standing near the tall windows, the stars stretching endless beyond. When she saw him, she gave a small smile, as if she already knew what he had discovered. "You found the prophecy," she said softly. "I did," Elias replied. "Why hide it? Why not speak openly so the council would understand?" Her smile faded into quiet sadness. "Because they will not believe. They think themselves too wise to fear old visions. To them, I am a dreamer who weakens tradition. But I cannot ignore the truth. I have felt it since I was young, when I first touched the crystals and saw the same visions you saw tonight. That is why I called for humanity. That is why I called for you." Her words struck deep. Elias looked at her, seeing not only a princess but a leader carrying the burden of prophecy. He realized she had risked not just her position but her very name for this choice. The council might never understand, but she had chosen her path with courage. "I do not know if I am the one in your prophecy," Elias said honestly. "But if I can stand beside you when the storm comes, I will. Humanity has always fought against odds, and we do not stop even when hope is small." Serenya's eyes softened, and for the first time she allowed her hand to rest lightly on his arm. "Then together we may have a chance." Outside the window, the stars glittered peacefully, yet Elias now saw them differently. Somewhere beyond that calm light, the darkness was waiting. The prophecy was no story. It was a warning. And soon, the galaxy would learn its meaning. The trials had tested mind, endurance, and empathy, but the council saved the most important one for last. It was called the Trial of Unity, an ancient tradition meant to judge whether two souls could stand together as one. Normally it was reserved for Elendari partners, but for the first time in history, a human would take part. The council chamber was filled with tension, and the air seemed to hold its breath. Captain Elias Carter stood before the great doors of the trial chamber, his uniform plain but his heart steady. Across from him, Princess Serenya appeared calm, though her eyes betrayed the weight of the moment. She walked beside him, her silver gown flowing like liquid light. When the doors opened, they stepped inside together. The chamber shifted around them, created by Elendari crystal technology. It shaped illusions so real that one could feel heat, taste air, and bleed from wounds. The trial was simple in rule but heavy in spirit. Two partners would be placed in a false world filled with danger. To succeed, they had to survive not by strength alone, but by trust and cooperation. The world that formed around Elias and Serenya was a broken city beneath a sky of storms. Towers lay shattered, fire burned in the distance, and the ground shook with every step. Shapes of shadow moved among the ruins, their eyes glowing faintly. Elias quickly understood. The chamber was recreating the prophecy. Stay close to me, he said firmly. Serenya nodded, and together they moved through the wreckage. The shadows struck without warning, rising like smoke given form. Elias fought with the skill of a soldier, using whatever broken metal he could find as a weapon. Serenya used her Elendari gifts, her voice and hands shaping barriers of light. Still, the shadows kept coming, endless and overwhelming. Elias realized the trial was not meant to be won by force. We cannot fight them all, he said. We need another way. Serenya closed her eyes and breathed deeply. The chamber responds to the heart as much as the mind. If we trust each other fully, the shadows will fade. It was easier said than done. The storm grew louder, fire closed in, and the illusions pressed on their fears. Elias felt the weight of doubt. Could a human and an Elendari truly move as one? Could two worlds so different join in spirit? He looked at Serenya and saw not only a princess but someone who had placed her trust in him when no one else did. He reached out his hand. Then trust me, as I trust you. Without hesitation, she took his hand. Their fingers locked, and in that single act the chamber changed. The shadows screamed and broke apart like mist under sunlight. The fires calmed, the storm slowed, and the ruined city grew still. Light spread from where they stood, pushing darkness away until only silence remained. The trial ended. The illusions faded, and the chamber returned to its crystal walls. Elias and Serenya stood side by side, still holding hands. Before them, the council and the gathered spectators sat in stunned silence. Never before had the trial of unity ended so clearly, with light overcoming shadow in such a way. One of the elders rose and spoke. The bond has been proven. The human and the princess have faced the storm together and endured. Unity has been achieved. Cheers erupted from many corners, though not all voices joined. Some alien envoys looked uneasy, their faces tight with hidden anger. But the decision of the trial could not be denied. The princess had chosen, and the human had stood with her. Elias released Serenya's hand only after the silence returned. He looked at her, and she gave him a calm smile. Now they will understand, she said softly. Perhaps, Elias replied. But I think this is only the beginning. She nodded, for she too felt it. The trial had been a test, but also a sign. The darkness they had faced inside the chamber was not only illusion. It was a reflection of what was coming, and both of them knew the real storm was drawing near. As they stepped out into the hall, the galaxy looked at them differently. Some saw hope, others saw threat, but none could ignore the truth. The bond had been formed, and with it the future of two worlds was now tied together. The calm of the Elendari capital shattered when the warning arrived. From the far edges of known space, a fleet of dark ships moved silently, their forms like black shards against the stars. No words could describe their size or the speed at which they approached. The council held an emergency session, but even the oldest elders could not recall a threat like this. Captain Elias Carter stood beside Princess Serenya, his hand brushing against hers in quiet solidarity. Together, they had faced trials and uncertainty, yet now they faced something greater than any simulation or prophecy could convey. The humans and the Elendari prepared for war, but both knew that this fight required more than weapons. It required courage, trust, and ingenuity. The enemy arrived without warning, their ships scattering across the system, cutting off communications and energy fields. The Elendari defenses fired, their beams slicing through darkness, but the fleet moved with strange coordination, as if each ship knew the next step before it happened. Many began to fear that the prophecy might bring not hope, but destruction. Elias observed the battlefield calmly. He noticed patterns in the enemy's movement, small inconsistencies that the Elandari pilots had overlooked. Using human intuition and rapid reasoning, he suggested strategies that no one else had considered. They coordinated small squads of ships in unexpected ways, striking weak points and using the enemy's momentum against them. Serenya directed the Elandari forces with wisdom, her voice clear across the comms, guiding the pilots and soldiers with precision. She trusted Elias completely, relying on his insight even when others questioned it. Slowly, the tide of battle began to shift. The Dark Fleet, once overwhelming, now struggled against the combined ingenuity of two species working as one. On the ground, Elandari and human forces fought side by side. Human soldiers moved through alien terrain, adapting to its strange gravity and shifting weather. Elandari shields protected groups of humans from sudden attacks, while human engineers repaired damaged equipment faster than anyone expected. It was a partnership born from trust, and in every corner of the battlefield, it became clear that unity could achieve what strength alone could not. Elias led a small squad on a mission to the heart of the enemy fleet. They boarded a dark ship using stealth and careful planning. Each step required courage and quick thinking. He guided his team through narrow corridors, avoiding patrols and disabling weapons with precision. When they reached the control center, Elias confronted the enemy commander, a being of immense size and intelligence. Yet he did not falter. Using strategy and a deep understanding of human adaptability, he outsmarted the commander, securing critical information that allowed the Elandari fleet to strike with confidence. Above them, Princess Serenya watched the human-led squads achieve feats that few could imagine. She realized why the prophecy had chosen humanity. It was not strength alone, nor advanced technology, but the human ability to act with creativity and hope under impossible conditions. The humans inspired the Elandari, reminding them that courage was not measured in years, but in the willingness to act. When the final wave of the Dark Fleet was repelled, the Elandari and human forces stood together, exhausted but victorious. Ships that had nearly been lost now drifted in repair, and soldiers from both species shared quiet smiles of relief. The galaxy had witnessed a sight few expected, humans and Elandari standing as equals, united against a threat that no single species could face alone. Elias returned to Serenya, his uniform scorched and his hands marked from the battle. She looked at him with a mixture of admiration and relief. "You proved what I always believed," she said softly. "Your people carry a strength that cannot be measured, a light that refuses to fade." Elias smiled, though tired. "We did it together. Humanity alone could not have done this. And neither could Elandari. But together, we can face anything." Across the galaxy, news of the victory spread. Worlds that had doubted humans now saw them as equals, their courage earning respect beyond measure. Princess Serenya's choice, once questioned, became celebrated. Humanity's role was no longer that of newcomers but of partners, capable of shaping the fate of the stars. As the Elandari capital rested under quiet starlight, Elias and Serenya stood on a balcony overlooking the city. They did not know what challenges would come next, but they understood this truth: hope, courage, and unity could overcome even the darkest of threats. The galaxy had witnessed human heroics, and it would remember them forever. The stars above shone brighter that night, reflecting the promise of a future where humans and Elandari stood side by side. A future built on trust, bravery, and the remarkable spirit that only humanity could bring.